A shift in you occurs when you know that you're ready for it. And money is the reward for who you become in the process of aligning your energy. Your emotional discipline, clarity, and confidence is the wealth that no one can steal, and the power that cannot be taken away. When you know what your purpose is, you have spiritual confidence. And when you have spiritual confidence, you're unstoppable. You're in harmony with success. You attract what you're prepared to receive. Be ready to receive emotionally and spiritually. When you walk into a room, does your energy say, I'm here to give, or I'm desperate to get? Everything is energy. Feelings like desperation and fear are blocks that stop you. So work on replacing these feelings with a quiet knowing that everything is going your way. Interrupt bad emotions. Replace them and realign. Say to yourself, I am safe. I am trusted. I am bringing people what they want. Know that you are the one they want. Not someday, not when it's perfect. Now. You are the one they want now. And from that place, everything begins to align. The world responds to you not because you have something, but because you are something. Feel your future self from the inside out and know that you are that now. Know that you're gonna win no matter what. Say to yourself, I am enough. I am ready. I am the one. Before a meeting, imagine that it already went better than expected. Before any decision or performance, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine it already went better than expected. Feel the confirmation and feel who you were in that moment. What were you thinking? How are you moving? What did you radiate? And then when you open your eyes, step into that role. When your body believes the outcome has already happened, you remove fear, and there's no more resistance. You've already won. First Things First by Stephen Covey and the Merrills, reading number 9. The weekly worksheet. As you look at the weekly worksheet on the following page, you'll notice that it's different from most planning tools in that it's a weekly and not a daily page. The week creates context. You may have seen the wonderful 2 or 3 minute video clip where the camera pans over what appear to be great hills and valleys, sweeping up and down, giving various perspectives of the apparent contours of a vast geographical area. At each sweep of the camera, we wonder what it is we're seeing. Are those raised areas, the undulating hills, of some barren wasteland? Are they the huge dunes of a remote desert? After a few moments, the camera slowly backs up so that the whole becomes visible. The quote mountains and quote valleys are the recognizable texture of an orange. Daily planning provides us with a limited view. It's so quote close up that we're often kept focused on what's right in front of us. Urgency and efficiency take the place of importance and effectiveness. Weekly organizing, on the other hand, provides a broader context to what we do. It takes a bigger picture and lets us see the, quote, mountains for what they really are. The activities of the day begin to take on more appropriate dimensions when viewed in the context of the week. Step 1. Connect with your vision and mission. As you begin to organize for the coming week, the first step is to connect with what's most important in your life as a whole. Context gives meaning. Consider the big picture, what you care about, what makes the moments in your life meaningful. The key to this connection lies in the clarity of your vision around such questions as, what's most important? What gives your life meaning? What do you want to be and to do in your life? Many people capture their answers to such questions in a written personal creed or mission statement. Such statements capture what you want to be and what you want to do in your life and the principles upon which being and doing are based. Clarity on these issues is critical because it affects everything else. The goals you set, the decisions you make, the paradigms you have, the way you spend your time. Returning to the latter metaphor, the personal mission statement provides the fundamental criteria for decoding which wall you want to put your ladder against. Because it's so foundational. It's the natural first step in the quadrant 2 process. Why schedule activities and appointments that aren't aligned with the purpose? Connecting with your personal mission is foundational to operating out of the importance paradigm. It dramatically affects the way you carry out the rest of the quadrant 2 process. If your mission includes such things as personal growth, family involvement, qualities of being, or areas of contribution, reviewing it will reinforce these, quote, first things in your mind. It will create a powerful framework for decision making in the steps that follow. So here's a picture of the weekly planner. It says at the top, 1, connect to mission. 2, review roles. 3, identify goals. And underneath that, it says roles and goals. And then underneath roles, it says physical, social, emotional, mental, spiritual. And then it breaks it down into time frames. And it says, actually it doesn't have time. It says 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. But then it says rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. Okay, and then by that it says mission. That's the only time. The only time frame it says in here is I can barely read it. Whatever. This print is so small I cannot even read a lot of it. Well, on the right column, it says at the top 4, organize weekly. 5, daily exercise integrity. Daily exercise integrity in the moment of choice. And this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, so here's the time. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then underneath that it says other priorities. Underneath every day it says other priorities. In chapter 5, we'll get into the area of personal vision and mission in depth. We'll look at how you can create an empowering mission statement that will produce quality of life results and generate a passion for life. If you don't have a personal mission statement now, you may get some feeling for what's important to you by doing one of the following. List the 3 or 4 things you would consider, quote, first things in your life. Consider any long-range goals you might have set. Think about the most important relationships in your life. Think about any contributions you'd like to make. Reaffirm the feelings you want to have in your life: peace, confidence, happiness, contribution, meaning. Think about how you might spend this week if you knew you only had 6 months to live. Consider the impact a personal mission statement could have for you by asking yourself the following questions. What difference would a clear vision of my principles, values, and ultimate objectives make in the way I spend my time? How would I feel about my life if I knew what was ultimately important for me? Would a written statement of my life's purpose be valuable to me? Would it affect the way I spend my time and energy? How would a weekly reconnection to such a statement affect the things I choose to do during the week? These words are in a box. If you do have a mission statement, review it now, before you decide how to spend the next 7 days of your life. Reconnect with the things that are deeply important to you. If you don't have a mission statement, spend a few moments connecting with your inner compass and thinking about what really matters most in your life. I want to say on this, I think it's a great idea to have a mission statement that's around 10 words or so, and it's probably going to start with I am, with the words I am. Because then whenever you need a burst of energy or to reconnect or realign yourself, you can just think your mission statement you came up with, your short mission statement. It could be 4 words. I am the fill in the blank. Okay? And then knowing what that means to you is the most important part of it. All right, back to the book. Step 2, identify your roles. We live our lives in terms of roles. Not in the sense of role playing, but in the sense of authentic parts we've chosen to fill. We may have important roles at work, in the family, in the community, or in other areas of life. Roles represent responsibilities, relationships, and areas of contribution. Much of our pain in life comes from the sense that we're succeeding in one role at the expense of other, possibly even more important roles. We may be doing great as vice president of a company, but not doing well at all as a parent or spouse. We may be succeeding in meeting the needs of our clients, but failing to meet our own need for personal development and growth. A clear set of roles provides a natural framework to create order and balance. If you have a mission statement, your roles will grow out of it. Balance among roles does not simply mean that you're spending time in each role, but that these roles work together for accomplishment of your mission. We'll take an in-depth look at roles and the balance among them in Chapter 6. For now, just list the roles that come to your mind in whatever way feels comfortable to you. Don't be overly concerned about getting them, quote, right the first time. It may take several weeks before you feel they capture the various facets of your life in a way that works for you. There's no set way to do it. Another person doing almost the same things you do might define the roles differently. In addition, your roles will probably change through the years. You may change jobs, join a club, marry, or become a parent or a grandparent. You may define your family role as simply, quote, family member, or you may choose to divide it into two roles, husband and father, or wife and mother, daughter and sister. Some areas of your life, such as your job, may involve several roles, one in administration, one in marketing, one in personnel, and one in long-range planning. You may also want to have one role that reflects personal development. A product development executive might define their role like this. Role: individual, personal development, husband, father, manager, new products. Manages research, manager staff development, manager administration, United Way chairman. A part-time real estate salesperson might list the following roles. This font it's like a handwritten font, and it's very small, kind of hard to read. Individual something development. I don't know what it says. I can't read this. Something manager, mother, PTA vice president, salesperson prospect, salesperson, financing, administration, whatever, salesperson. Okay, I don't know what it says. I can't read this font when it's this small. Okay, I'm sorry, my bad, whatever. Not my bad, your bad, whatever, who cares? Who cares? Since studies show that it's less effective to attempt to mentally manage more than 7 categories, we recommend that you try to combine functions such as administration and finance or personnel team, building, to keep your total number of roles to 7. This will support mental organization around these role areas. On the other hand, don't feel that you have to come up with 7 roles. If you only identify 5 or 6 roles, that's fine. The number 7 simply represents an upper limit to comfortable mental processing. Identifying roles gives a sense of the wholeness of quality life. That life is more than just a job or a family or a particular relationship. It's all of these together. Identifying roles may also highlight, quote, important but not urgent areas that are currently being neglected. In addition to the roles you've identified, we'd like to suggest a separate and foundational role called, quote, sharpen the saw. We treat this as a separate role for two reasons. One, it's a role that everyone has, and two, it's foundational for success in every other role. You'll find this role represented in the upper left-hand corner of the weekly worksheet. Okay, where it says connect to mission, review roles, identify goals. I want to say on that, I once heard something that stuck with me. And it went something like this. A wise man said, or a wise person said, give me 2 hours to cut down a tree, and I'll spend an hour and 45 minutes, or like I'll spend like an hour and a half sharpening the axe. Let's go with it like that. Give me 2 hours to cut down a tree, and I'll spend an hour and a half sharpening the axe. Okay. The term, quote, sharpen the saw is a metaphor that describes the energy we invest in increasing our personal capacity in the 4 fundamental areas: physical, social, mental, and spiritual. Roles: physical, social, emotional, mental, spiritual. Sharpen the saw. We often get so busy, quote, saving, producing results, that we forget to, quote, sharpen our saw, maintain or increase our capacity to produce results in the future. We may neglect to exercise, physical area, or fail to develop key relationships, social, emotional area. We may not keep current in our field, mental area. We may not be clear about what's important and meaningful to us, spiritual area. If we fail to build our personal capacity in these areas, we quickly become, quote, dulled and worn out from the imbalance. We're unable to move forward as effectively in the other roles of our lives. We often hear stories of Olympic athletes who have spent years in vigorous training and preparation for their event. They mentally rehearse their performance, envisioning over and over the details of execution. They create in themselves the strength that allows them to compete successfully. These athletes can't train only when it's convenient or easy and expect to come out winners. Neither can we expect to have the capacity to enjoy life fully without caring for and conditioning the sources of strength in our lives. You may find that this, quote, role of sharpening the saw overlaps with the personal development role you already defined. That's not a problem. The important thing is that none of the 4 areas is neglected. Some people use their, quote, sharpen the saw role for organizing weekly, quote, investment activities such as daily exercise or personal reading, and use one of their other roles for long-term issues such as career planning or continuing education. It's really a matter of what works best for you. It's also important to realize that all of these roles are not distinct, quote, departments of life. They form a highly interrelated whole. By identifying your roles, you're not trying to break your life down and fit it into neat little boxes on a planning page. You're creating a variety of perspectives from which to examine your life to ensure balance and harmony. The paradigm is always one of importance, interdependence, and relatedness. This statement here is in a box, so they're making it stand out for importance. If you haven't done so, write your roles on your worksheet now. Now consider these questions. Do I often find that I'm consumed by one or two roles in my life and that the others do not receive the time and attention I'd like to give them? How many of my, quote, first things are in roles other than those that receive most of my time and attention? Do the roles I've selected work together to contribute to the fulfillment of my mission? What difference would it make in the quality of my life to consider these roles on a weekly basis and ensure that my activities are appropriately balanced? We'll address these and other role-related issues in Chapter 6. Step 3. Select Quadrant 2 goals in each role. With your framework of roles identified, ask yourself, what's the most important thing I could do in each role this week to have the greatest positive impact? As you pause to consider this question, consult the wisdom of your heart as well as your mind. What do you feel would make a significant difference in each role? What about your role as a spouse, as a friend, as a parent, as an employee? As you consider the most important activities in each role, begin to use your compass instead of the clock. Listen to your conscience. Focus on the importance rather than urgency. If one of your roles deals with your own development, your goals might include such things as planning time for a personal retreat, working on a mission statement, or gathering information about a speed reading course. If you are a parent, your goal might be to spend some one-on-one time with your child. If you're married, it might be to go on a date with your husband or wife. Job-related goals could include setting aside time for some long-range planning, coaching a peer or subordinate, visiting customers, or working on shared expectations with your boss. In the sharpen the saw area, physical goals might include regular exercise or proper diet. In the spiritual area, you might choose meditation, prayer, or study of inspiring literature. In the mental area, you might set a goal to attend a class or pursue your own reading program. For social development, you might work on principles of effective interdependence, such as empathetic listening, honesty, or unconditional love. The key is to consistently do whatever builds your strength in these areas and increases your capacity to live, to love, to learn, and to leave a legacy. An hour a day spent, quote, sharpening your saw creates a, quote, private victory that makes public victories possible. You'll probably be aware of several goals you could set in each role. For now, limit yourself to the one or two goals that are most important. You may even feel, based on your inner compass, that you don't want to set goals in every role this week. The Quadrant 2 process allows for that flexibility and encourages you to use your compass in determining what's most important for you to do. In Chapter 7, we'll look at how you can use your endowments to make those choices and to set and achieve principle-based goals that create quality of life results. Write your goals in the, quote, goals area on the weekly worksheet. Roles. By roles, individual something development. I can't read it. Goal. Sign up for karate class. By roles. Home manager, I think it says. By goals. Under goals, by that, it says create meal planning form, okay? Under role, mother. Under goal, seek Bear Scout requirements. I don't know. It's hard to read this. Under roles, PTA vice president. By that, under goals, prepare calendar. Okay. Under role, salesperson prospect. Under goal, appointment with sales or super corp manager, I guess. Under roles, salesperson something administration. Under goals, prepare for meeting with bank. Under roles, it says salesperson properties. And then under goals, by that, it says map out something. Yates subdivision, I guess. I don't know. If you've considered carefully, your goals will represent those activities that you feel are truly important to fulfillment in your roles. Now ask yourself these questions. What would happen if I did these things during the coming week? How would I feel about the quality of my life? What if I did only some of them? Would it make a positive difference in my life? What if I did this every week? Would I be more effective than I am now? Step 4. Create a decision-making framework for the week. Effectively translating high-leverage quadrant 2 goals into an action plan requires creating a framework for effective decision-making throughout the week. Most people are constantly trying to find time for the, quote, important activities in their already overflowing quadrant 1 and 3 schedules. They move things around, delegate them, cancel them, postpone them, all in the hope of finding time for first things. The key, however, is not to prioritize your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. One of our associates shared this experience. Here's the inserted story. I attended a seminar once where the instructor was lecturing on time. At one point he said, okay, it's time for a quiz. He reached under the table and pulled out a wide-mouthed gallon jar. It's the big stones, little stones, sand, and water thing again, okay? Maybe, yeah. He asked, after we made our guess, okay, how many of these rocks, okay, he set the jar on the table next to a platter with some fist-sized rocks on it. How many of these rocks do you think we can get in the jar? He asked. After we made our guess, he said, okay, let's find out. He set one rock in a jar, then another, then another. I don't remember how many he got in, but he got the jar full. Then he asked, is the jar full? Everybody looked at the rocks and said yes. Then he said, He reached under the table and pulled out a bucket of gravel. Then he dumped some gravel in and shook the jar, and the gravel went in all the little spaces left by the big rocks. Then he grinned and said once more, is the jar full? By this time, we were on to him. Probably not, we said. Good, he replied. And he reached under the table and brought out a bucket of sand. he started dumping the sand in, and it went in all the little spaces left by the rocks and gravel. Once more, he looked at us and said, "Is the jar full?" "No," we all roared. He said, "Good." He grabbed a pitcher of water and began to pour it in. He got something like a quart of water in the jar. Then he said, "Well, what's the point?" Somebody said, "Well, there are gaps, and if you really work at it, you can always fit more into your life." I think it's put the big rocks in first. "No," he said, "that's not the point. The point is this: if you hadn't put these big rocks in first, would you ever have gotten any of them in?" With the, quote, "more is better" paradigm, we're always trying to fit more activities into the time we have. But what does it matter how much we do if what we're doing isn't what matters most? Our quadrant 2 goals are like the, quote, big rocks. If we put other activities, the water, sand, and gravel in first, and then try to fit the big rocks in, not only will they not fit, we'll end up making a pretty big mess in the process. If we know that the big rocks are, if we know what the big rocks are and put them in first, it's amazing how many of them we can put in and how much of the sand, gravel, and water fits in between the spaces. Regardless of what else actually does fit in, the key point is that the big rocks, our quadrant 2 goals, are in first. See the illustration on page 90. Okay. The big rocks are in the jar and everything else is in the jar too. Alright. As you look at your weekly worksheet, put your quadrant 2 goals in place. You'll notice that there are 2 kinds of areas on the weekly worksheet for each day. One is divided into the hours for specific appointments. The other provides space to list priorities for the day. To schedule your quadrant 2 goals, either set a specific time during the day to work on the goal or list it as a priority for the day. Usually, the specific appointment is the most effective. You may feel your most important goals for the week include doing some long-range planning, exercising, and preparing a major project proposal. Make specific appointments with yourself to work on these goals, and treat an appointment with yourself as you treat an appointment with anybody else. Plan around it. Channel other activities and requests to different time blocks. If that appointment has to be changed, reschedule it immediately. Give yourself the same consideration you would give anyone else. In some cases, it may be more effective not to schedule a goal at a particular hour of the day, but to list it as a priority instead. For example, if your goal is to improve your relationship with your teenage daughter, it's important to realize that the opportunity may not surface at a predictable time. Rather than planning a specific activity together during the week, you may find it more effective to simply put her name at the top of your list of, quote, other priorities, and watch for an opportunity. If you do this on Monday and nothing develops, draw an arrow on that line across to Tuesday. If nothing happens on Tuesday, draw it across to Wednesday. This way the priority is on your mind. You're looking for the right occasion, and you can see what's happening in your week with regard to it. Then on Wednesday evening, when you're reading the paper and she comes in and wants to talk, you have the motivation to push your paper, not your daughter, aside. Of course, specific activities with your children are also very valuable. It's often the time spent bowling or watching a movie together that allows the spontaneous conversations to occur. The important thing is to be sensitive to both the need for the goal and the nature of the goal when determining what's most important. This statement is separated in a box. If you're planning your week as you go through this chapter, take some time now and schedule your Quadrant 2 goals. Scheduling important Quadrant 2 goals is a big step toward putting first things first. If you don't put the Quadrant 2 activities in place first, it's easy for the week to be filled by the flood of activities from Quadrants 1 and 3 that constantly clamor for our attention. It's hard to, quote, fit in those important Quadrant 2 activities that would make such a significant difference. If we put the, quote, big rocks in first, we reverse that tendency. We create a framework to accomplish what we feel is important, around which we can then, quote, fit in other activities. So the Quadrant 2 goals are what's most important. The Quadrant 2 goals are the big rocks. So when you're making your weekly planning sheet, you want to put in your Quadrant 2 goals first. With the big Quadrant 2 rocks in place, you can comfortably start adding other activities, either as appointments or priorities for the day. It pays to examine each activity carefully and determine which quadrant it's really in. It may feel urgent. Is it? Or does it just seem that way because someone or something else is creating pressure? Is it really important? Or has the feeling of urgency made it only seem important? As we observed earlier, if you're addicted to living in a crisis mode, it's easy to think that almost everything you do is in Quadrant 1. But careful analysis will probably reveal a great deal of time spent in Quadrant 3. Urgent and not important, I guess. If you're struggling to find time to invest in Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3 is the primary place to get it. Once you start to invest time in Quadrant 2, it significantly impacts the amount of time you spend in each of the other quadrants. As you plan, prepare, build relationships, or enjoy quality recreation, you'll find that you spend far less time picking up the broken pieces in Quadrant 1 or reacting to the urgent demands of others in Quadrant 3. Oh, I think Quadrant 3 is urgent and important. Yeah, I think Quadrant 3 is urgent and important. It's probably mostly considered important by other people and not you. The ideal to work toward is eliminating 3 and 4. It's spending time on important Quadrant 1 and 2 activities and shifting more and more to the preparing, prevention, and empowering activities of Quadrant 2. As you look at your week, it's important to realize that it's critical not to fill every moment of every day with time-sensitive appointments. Allow for flexibility. While you do your best to plan what's important based on available knowledge, the fact is that life is not the automatic incarnation of a planning page. No matter how well that page is written, to ignore the unexpected, even if it were possible, would be to live without opportunity, spontaneity, and the rich moments of which, quote, life is made. The object of Quadrant 2, organizing, is not to set a schedule in cement. It's to create the framework in which quality decisions based on importance can be made on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis. The statement is separated in a box. If you're working on your week now, plan your other key activities around your Quadrant 2 goals and schedule them as appointments or as daily priorities. Consider the value of such a weekly framework by asking yourself the following questions. How do I feel about my week as I have it planned? What difference would it make if I planned Quadrant 2 goals in each role, either as appointments or as daily priorities, each week and carried them out? Do I see the logic in putting the, quote, big rocks in first? How will this help me to get those important things done? In Chapter 8, we'll take a closer look at 3, quote, operating perspectives we gain as we move from the daily to the weekly focus. Step 5, exercise integrity in the moment. With important Quadrant 2 goals in place for the week, the daily task is to keep first things first while navigating through the unexpected opportunities and challenges of the day. Exercising integrity, or integratedness, means translating the mission to the moment with peace and confidence. Whether putting first things first means carrying out your plan or creating conscience-directed change. All the steps we've taken so far in the process are designed to enhance your character and competence, your judgment, your ability to access that inner compass in decision-making moments where the rubber meets the road. There are 3 additional things you can do at the beginning of the day that will enhance your ability to put first things first. 1. Preview the day. This is a much different process from the, quote, daily planning of traditional time management. It's spending a few moments at the beginning of the day to revisit your schedule, enabling you to get your bearings, check your compass, look at the day in the context of the week, and renew the perspective that empowers you to respond in a meaningful way to the unanticipated opportunity or challenge. At this point, some people prefer the room for greater detail available on a daily page. 2. Prioritize. Before you begin to prioritize in the traditional sense, you may find it helpful to identify your activities as Quadrant 1 or Quadrant 2. This gives you an additional opportunity to ensure that Quadrant 3 activities haven't slipped into your schedule as in disguise. It also helps you keep a kairos, or compass context to the day, which is normally more chronos or clock focused, and it helps reinforce the importance paradigm and make you more aware of the nature of the choices you make. And further prioritization, if further prioritization is helpful, you can give some indication of the status of each quadrant 1 or quadrant 2 activity. Some people prefer to use the ABC method, assigning each item an A, B, or C, depending on importance, and always working on A's. Others prefer a simple numbering system that requires a more specific priority decision. See pages 96 and 97. Okay, I'm not going to read all that. Whether or not you use the more detailed priority indication, we highly recommend that you highlight, circle, or mark with an asterisk your most important priority. This may require deciding between 2 quadrant 2 activities you have scheduled for the day. If the nature of the day is such that nothing else gets done, you still have the satisfaction of knowing you did the one thing that mattered most. As you prioritize, it's critical to remember that your prioritization only includes the items you put into your framework for the week. It does not take into consideration the priority of unexpected opportunities or challenges. If you've given careful consideration to your roles and goals, what's in your framework will reflect your best effort to determine what's first for the week. But none of us is omniscient. Things can come up that are genuinely more important than what you have planned. Keep connecting with your inner compass so that you can act with integrity to what's important, not necessarily to your schedule. Three, use some form of T planning for the day. The letter T, planning. All right. And then I don't understand. And then it just jumps to 6. Step 6, evaluate. Oh, step 5. Okay, I see. Step 5 is exercise integrity in the moment, and then step 6 is evaluate. All right. 3. Use some form of T planning for the day. On the daily sheet, the basic structure allows you to list, quote, time-sensitive activities on the left and activities that can be done at any time of the day on the right. This technique is often called T planning. By separating the time-sensitive activities from the rest, you're able to make more effective scheduling decisions and remain sensitive to important commitments. The more condensed weekly worksheet puts these same areas above and below. An activity is considered, quote, time-sensitive if its value is attached to a specific time of the day. A doctor's appointment, for example, may have high value at 10 o'clock in the morning, but no value at all at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, unless you're still waiting in the doctor's office. Because an activity is scheduled in the, quote, time-sensitive area does not automatically mean When the time arrives, you quit what you're doing and shift focus. You may be involved in something genuinely more important and want to reschedule. The key is your ability to discern between the two activities and determine which is more important at the time. As you live through the day, factors will undoubtedly come up that cause you to reevaluate the activities you've planned. Your boss calls a meeting. Somebody offers you 2 tickets for the symphony. Your daughter calls from school with a broken arm. A client cancels an appointment. Quadrant 2 organizing empowers you to look at the best use of your time through the paradigm of importance rather than urgency. As situations change, you can pause and connect with your inner compass to determine the, quote, best use of your time and energy. When the unexpected is less important than what you had planned, Quadrant 2, organizing, gives you perspective and the power to keep on track. When the unexpected is more important, it empowers you to adapt and change with confidence, knowing that you're acting on the truly important and not just reacting to the urgent. In Chapter 9, we'll take an in-depth look at how to access that inner compass in any moment of choice. We'll talk about how to be strong in hard moments, how to know when the unexpected opportunity or challenge is more important than what you've planned, and how to either stay with what you've planned or change with confidence and peace. Step 6, evaluate, is where I'll begin the next reading on page 100.
A shift in you occurs when you know that you're ready for it. And money is the reward for who you become in the process of aligning your energy. Your emotional discipline, clarity, and confidence is the wealth that no one can steal, and the power that cannot be taken away. When you know what your purpose is, you have spiritual confidence. And when you have spiritual confidence, you're unstoppable. You're in harmony with success. You attract what you're prepared to receive. Be ready to receive emotionally and spiritually. When you walk into a room, does your energy say, I'm here to give, or I'm desperate to get? Everything is energy. Feelings like desperation and fear are blocks that stop you. So work on replacing these feelings with a quiet knowing that everything is going your way. Interrupt bad emotions. Replace them and realign. Say to yourself, I am safe. I am trusted. I am bringing people what they want. Know that you are the one they want. Not someday, not when it's perfect. Now. You are the one they want now. And from that place, everything begins to align. The world responds to you, not because you have something, but because you are something. Feel your future self from the inside out and know that you are that now. Know that you're gonna win no matter what.
Money on my mind, can never get enough. And every time I step into the building, everybody's hands go up. And they say that.
Before a meeting, Imagine that it already went better than expected. Before any decision or performance, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine it already went better than expected. Feel the confirmation and feel who you were in that moment. What were you thinking? How were you moving? What did you radiate? And then when you open your eyes, step into that role. When your body believes the outcome has already happened, you remove fear and there's no more resistance. You've already won. First Things First by Stephen Covey and the Merrills, reading number 9. The weekly